What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Faithful Phanatics show live here on DSM-Media's YouTube channel exclusively this morning. Guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure to tap in on Twitter at DSM_media. Hit that follow button. Obviously, we greatly appreciate it. But if you guys want to be interactive throughout today's show, if you want to catch any of the DSM pregame lives that we do for the Sixers, Eagles, and Phillies, if you want to be interactive throughout the Faithful Fanatics show, make sure you subscribe to the DSM-Philadelphia YouTube channel that we are streaming to you live on right now. I am one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host. The Phillies drop game 2 in Atlanta after having a 4-0 lead through 6 innings of the ball game. Game ends in ridiculous, deflating, heartbreaking fashion. We're going to be breaking it all down, where it went wrong, what all went wrong, and can the Phillies bounce back at home tonight as the series shifts back to South Philly at Citizens Bank Park? My man, what is going on this Wednesday morning? Happy hump day.
Happy hump day, my man. Happy Wednesday morning. Coming off a tough loss for the Phils. We're going to get into that. Obviously, big matchup tonight. We'll get into that as well. No Phillies pregame tonight, so we'll get all of that covered this morning here. But yeah, man, happy to be here. Not as exciting as Victory Monday, but nonetheless, we got business to handle. As I imagine the Phillies feel that way as well. I imagine they're chopping to get back to the bit. So, man, I'm excited. I've actually gotten. I don't want to say I've gotten over it, but I feel like I kind of had to get over it by now, and I am kind of feeling like I'm over it. I'm ready to just see them play some more baseball and get after it. We know what the Phillies are about. I think when you watch a team crumble, just generally speaking here, when you watch a team crumble like that, it's easy to feel like shit's over. It's easy to feel like the momentum has subsided to the opposing way. And it feels like you've lost everything. But in reality, you just lost one game on the road. And you did split, which was the ultimate goal going into those 2 games. So that's the hindsight. That's the generic view on it.
That's the glass half full. That's the glass half full.
We'll dig into it, though.
I'll dig into a little bit more of the glass half empty version, just because a little over 24 hours have gone by. We'll get into how we're feeling. It still stings, man. I'm not going to lie. It still hurts. And by 5 p.m. I'll be ready to go for sure, but we're going to get into all of it. It's funny how life has a way of balancing out. It has a way of equaling out, right? Because Monday morning we got on here and it was the greatest Victory Monday show we could ever do. The Eagles are 5-0. The Phillies take game 1 in Atlanta. They shut out the Braves. Everything is sunshine and rainbows. And then you get on here for Wednesday morning show and it's like, wow, the tides have really turned. So let's get into game 2. All right. Let's kind of workshop our way through this little therapy session.
I just want to say one thing off what you just said. And I think it's something that has not been spoken of about Philly fans of late. And I think it's the fact that we just haven't watched our teams lose very recently. Like, obviously the Phillies lost regular season games, but those just don't hit you. It's 1 out of 162. So you think, like, when's the last time you lost like a meaningful Philadelphia sports game? And it was probably the Sixers against the Celtics in early spring, because the Eagles have not lost. The Phillies did not lose up until that point in the postseason. So I feel like we were a little spoiled in a sense for not having to deal with a loss over the last few months. And maybe we aren't as conditioned for it as we used to be.
No, it's a funny point. And you can even go back a year's time, 9 months, 10 months time here, because think about last year. We were technically extremely spoiled here in Philadelphia with 3 of our major 5 teams playing for their championship in the Phillies, the Union, and the Eagles. Now, unfortunately, all 3 came away with a loss. So, and then the Sixers collapse. Are we spoiled? Are we cursed? I don't know.
Right.
but this loss to get into game 2 maybe hurt more than all of them. And I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds crazy to say one loss of a divisional round series hurt more than a game 6 loss when Yordan Alvarez hits a 500-foot home run and your season's ending. I know it sounds crazy to say that when the Eagles blow 2 14-point leads against Patrick Mahomes and lose the Super Bowl on a ridiculous holding call, that this would hurt more. But it's not about the fact that they lost, Scotty. It's how they lost this one that stings, that hurts. It's so deflating and so heartbreaking, because I said to you yesterday's show or Monday's show, if they lose this game, it's somewhat expected. Like, were the Phillies were you expecting the Phillies to go into Atlanta against that team, against that offense, and take both games before the series started? Absolutely the hell not. So you're right. They did their job. They took one. They shifted home field back to Philadelphia, where we know what they can do and what this crowd can do. The issue is the fashion in which you lost. So let's get into it. The Phillies have a 4-0 lead into the bottom of the 6th inning. They get the first 2 outs at the bottom of the 6th inning. Zach Wheeler walks Ronald Acuna Jr. The very next pitch, Ozzie Albies rips one in the right field for a single. Up, relay throw, Trey Turner, second error of the game. Ronald Acuna Jr. scores. 4-1. It gives that ballpark and that team a little bit of life, a little bit of oxygen, a little bit of energy that they just couldn't afford to give them. Now, with that said, it's still a 4-1 game, okay? You left way too many runners on base. You left way too many runners in scoring position. And that's something that has haunted this Phillies team throughout the regular season. It haunted them last year over that postseason run, but it specifically hurt them this game against Atlanta. And what was weird, man, is you could feel it. I was watching the game, with my mom and stepdad. I was texting friends. My uncle's texting my uncle's friend. Everyone could kind of feel it. Even when the Phillies were up 3-0, even 4-0, it's kind of like, man, they're not cashing in. At some point, this is going to turn around to bite them. So you left way too many runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
Trey Turner's error. Rob Thompson's decision and leash with Zach Wheeler. The decision to give Jeff Hoffman the ball in the 8th inning. The decision between Jeff Hoffman and JT Realmuto to try to sneak an effing slider by Austin Riley with a full count and 2 outs. And then we all know the game-ending catch by Michael Harris when we thought Nick Castellanos maybe had some heroics left in him. Bryce Harper was being aggressive, gets doubled off. We'll get into all of it. But my God, that's about 500 things that went wrong. And they went wrong between 2 outs in the bottom of the 6th and 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th, Scotty. Like this little barrage, this little collapse happened in about that fraction of an entire 9-inning game. That's what hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, I think when you look at this game, and just to go off what you said at first there, it's when you look at this series, yes, you'll take the split coming in in Atlanta, right? You just wanted one of two, but when you look back on it and you ask yourself, well, which one would they have probably taken? If you look, just going into the series, you look at it and it's Zach Wheeler on the mound for game 2 in Atlanta, but you win the bullpen game in the game 1, right? With Ranger Suarez and, 5 other reliever arms. And it looks like you look back on it and you just can't help but understand that it's a huge missed opportunity. I felt the exact same way throughout the entire game. I'm sitting there looking at my bet slips and I'm looking at the cash outs and I'm like, man, this feels like off right now. Like after you see Bryce with, 2 guys on base, he doesn't do anything. Yeah. You had a couple opportunities for Bryson Stott in this game to get to bring some guys in. Down the line, there was plenty of opportunities across the board for these guys. I think even Baum had a couple opportunities. But nonetheless, as you just start to see all these men left on base in scoring positions, different things, the trajectory of the game just didn't feel right because you knew at some point the Braves weren't going to go out 4-0. Like they weren't going to get outed 7-0 at home.
Shutting them out again.
Exactly. Like that was not about to happen again. And then all of a sudden you 7-0'd the Braves at home in 2 games, going back to Philly for the sweep. It almost sounded too good to be true. Yeah. And it was too good to be true.
You can honestly go to the first inning, man.
Yeah. You literally can, right? I mean, you could have gotten so much more just in the first inning. You left meat on the bone in the first inning, man. And you just can't beat the best team, the best offensive team in baseball like that. And what I will say, it goes both ways though, right? Because we sit here, you say the half glass empty, the half glass full. It goes both ways because all those things happen. and they still only lost by 1
Yeah.
run, right?
Yeah.
And it still took until the 8th inning for them to grind
Yeah.
those runs out
And
and
it
take the
it it
lead.
it took one of the greatest
But it
catches
makes it hurt
in playoff
more.
history. It took one of the greatest catches in MLB playoff history to get the job done, right? Like,
Yeah.
even after that heroic comeback by the Braves, Nick Castellanos and Bryce Harper were inches away from spoiling that for them,
Yeah.
right? So the Phillies, in no way, shape, or form, played a great baseball game. It just felt, with the score being 4-0, Wheeler
This is
10
game.
Ks, a no-hitter through 5 innings,
You
or
should
a
win this
perfect game
game.
through 5
Yeah.
innings. This has to be a win at this point. That's
Yeah.
all I kept
Yeah.
thinking. And the fact that you lost that, but the Turner error, man, both of them, the first one, obviously, with Matt Olson getting on base, didn't come around to haunt them to open that inning. Don't know what he's doing there. That's a routine ground ball that hit off the heel of his hand and in his glove. The second one, like, Trey, what are we doing, man? I'm not trying to get on him too hard. That can't happen. I don't know how you make the diving double play stop you making game one. We're talking about possibly the greatest defensive play in Phillies playoff history on Saturday night. And you turn around and have not one, but two routine plays go for errors. And one of them feeds life into that Truist Park and into that clubhouse of the Atlanta Braves.
That's when you really felt it. When that second error cost you a run and you see them get on the board, you see the excitement, the fans start to stand up. That's when you really feel things sinking in on you, and you gave them hope right there. Yeah. When
Scotty,
you're shooting yourself in the
that place was
foot.
a library.
You're shooting yourself in the foot. Like,
Yes.
how many times can I shoot myself in the foot before this Braves team bites me?
Right, before I bleed out.
Exactly.
How many times can I shoot myself in the foot before I bleed out, right?
Exactly.
Now let's get to Rob Thompson, right? The Trey Turner error, bad enough. Trey, I believe in you to bounce back tonight, okay?
Yeah.
Rob Thompson, obviously, pressed every correct button in game one. You can question the plan. You can question his logic to Paul Ranger Suarez, when to throw Alvarado, when to throw Matt Strahm, when to throw Hoffman, et cetera, but it worked.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of being right. The issue is when you're wrong, now the Monday morning quarterbacking can start. Now the second guessing gets to start. I'll start by saying this. I have absolutely zero issue with Rob Thompson sending Zach Wheeler out there for the 7th inning.
Yeah.
Okay. My issue comes to play after the very first pitch of the bottom of the 7th. Because all year long, last postseason run, last year, Rob Thompson has been very, very clear and specific as to when he goes and gets his guy, specifically Zach Wheeler. When Zach Wheeler's velocity on his fastball dips, when it's not rising the way it was through the first 6 innings, he goes and gets him immediately. Not to mention, when they gave up the run for the Turner error in the 6th, he already had someone warming up. So Wheeler was this close from getting pulled, okay?
He already knew.
You throw him back out there, that's fine. But he gets the first batter to see what happens for me. About a 94, 95 mile an hour fastball, catches the entire middle of the plate. Matt Olson rips it back up the middle for a single. That's got to be it. That has, that has to be the moment you go and get your guy right then and there. No, he leaves him out there. He strikes out Marcell Ozuna. Now that really has to be it, because Rob's a big analytical guy, right? When it comes to numbers and reasoning when to take guys out. Why did Travis d'Arnaud get the start yesterday over Sean Murphy? Because of his career numbers versus Zach Wheeler.
Yeah.
You let him throw to Travis d'Arnaud in that spot. The one guy in the lineup who has lifetime success against your ace, you let him go out there for one more at-bat. He hangs an off-speed pitch. See ya, 4-3. Non-existent roof blows off the place, okay? I know I'm talking a lot, but I got that.
Yeah, no, you're spot on, man. It's just bothersome, but yeah.
Now we get to the 8th. First Alvarado comes in, gets out of the inning. Alvarado comes out, gets Michael Harris out to start the bottom of the 8th. Do you leave him in? I don't hate the move to get Alvarado. You got Acuna coming up. You got Albies, who's better from the right side of the plate. Then you have Riley. You have 3 right-handed hitters who eat left-handed pitching.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with you getting Jose Alvarado out of the game there. He went and got you 2 outs. All right? He makes the call for Jeff Hoffman. Now, again, it is incredibly easy for me to sit here in front of this screen with this microphone over 24 hours later because it didn't work and say, why would you do that? Because Saturday, everything worked. And I know Jeff Hoffman has been really, really good for you this year, dude. He hadn't let up a home run since like August 8th, I think the stat was. Okay? He's been phenomenal for you. I know he pitched Saturday night. I know he pitched against the Marlins. He's got a wrinkle of postseason, play under his belt. Experience. But how is that the guy you call in the bottom of the 8th on the road, 1-run game against this lineup when you're trying to put them away? Sir Anthony Dominguez is sitting right there. I know he struggled at times this year. He's pitching a lot better right now. He's the guy with World Series experience. He's right-handed. You go and you get that guy.
Yeah.
You don't bring in Jeff Hoffman in the 8th against that lineup. One more issue in this inning, and then it's all yours.
Yeah, no, you're fine, man.
I would love to have a conversation with JT Realmuto and Jeff Hoffman. And by the way, Jeff Hoffman was asked about it after the game, and his answers were despicable. They were awful. But anyway, you have a runner on third in a 1-run game, 2 outs. Austin Riley's up to bat. You already blew 2 98 to 99 mile per hour fastballs up in the zone past Austin Riley earlier in this at-bat. He's not catching up to it. Even if he catches up to it and somehow pokes one in the outfield, that's worst case. It's a tie game with a runner on first. That's it. You decide that the best route here is to try to trick Austin Riley and sneak an 84 mile per hour slider by him that you absolutely hang in the bottom third of the strike zone. Didn't work. And it cost the Phillies the ballgame. I know it's incredibly easy for me to sit here and pick on Jeff Hoffman because who the hell is Jeff Hoffman, but he's been really good this year. I know it's easy for us to say, what is Rob Thompson doing when things go wrong and don't work? But really, man, I did not like the decision-making in either game necessarily because I still don't understand the Ranger thing. One night it worked out. One night it didn't.
Yeah.
We'll see where we go moving forward, but
yeah, I mean, you highlighted all the wrong buttons pressed in this game, and I mean that's how you lose a game on the road against arguably the best offensive team in MLB history. That's how you do it. So, yeah, man, it was deflating in a sense. I love Brett's comment here. This was a 76ers split. It was very much a 76ers-esque feeling to that game, man. Just blowing a lead. Like, they didn't go into game 2 up 1 game on the road and go down 4-0 and have to fight back and then lose 5-4.
Right.
No, they went up 4-0.
Yeah.
And then blew the lead completely, but just by 1 run. They didn't get the top blown off.
Right.
Just enough to lose, right? Just enough.
Last year in San Diego in the NLCS, they won game 1. They went up 4-0 in San Diego in game 2. But got their ass beat from the 4th, 5th inning on. They lost 8-4, 9-5, whatever the case may be. That's a little different, maybe, I guess.
It's a little bit better because, okay, the Padres, they're just having a great game, right? They're on this game, we're off. That's acceptable. But how do you feel about Darius's comment here? So momentum swing, but does it feel like the Phillies are the better team? They did have the 4-run lead in the game. They had the larger lead within the game they had the lead for longer in the game. They lost the game.
Here's the way I look at this series right now, and we'll get into game 3 in a couple of moments here.
Yeah.
I think that the Phillies have won 90% of the first 18 innings of this series. Yeah. I think the Phillies have played the better baseball. I think that the Phillies haven't even played B+ baseball.
Yeah.
And the series is tied. There's been obviously all the mistakes in game 2, right? The lack of long ball, no Schwarbombs this postseason, right? There's been Alec Boehm struggling the last 2 games besides an RBI single in the first inning. There's been a lot of meat left on the bone, and it's still 1-1. I also think that there's no team in the major leagues and no team in this city that I trust more so than this Phillies squad to bounce back, like Nick Castellanos said, after they get punched in the face. I think they're fine. I really do. I also will throw you this. I know yesterday sucked, and it felt like the longest day ever for us fans sitting here having to sit with that loss. I'm sitting here knowing we're doing the show today. I'm sitting with everything I just laid out there, waiting to get it off my chest. But I think yesterday being an off day was absolutely huge for the Philadelphia Phillies in terms of momentum.
Yeah.
Momentum exists. Like, if the Atlanta Braves win the game in the fashion they did Monday night, and then the Phillies had to play them 18, 17 hours later, then I think the momentum would be a real thing that night in South Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You're going on almost 48 hours later. Traveled back to Philly. You get the I'm not as scared of, quote unquote, waking a sleeping dragon, right? And waking up the beast in Atlanta with this being 48 hours later.
I think waking up the beast, or I know what analogy you're getting at there. I can't think of it myself specifically, right. But I know exactly what you mean. I feel like it would feel that way if it wasn't the same thing for the Phillies. Like, while the Braves, yes, they could erupt tonight like a volcano for sure. They could do that. Like, maybe their offensive explosion is coming. We don't know yet. But the same thing could be said for the Phillies, man. Like, at the end of the day, they are. Yeah, there we go, Brett. Thank you, my man.
There it is.
Brett always helping the show out. I appreciate you, Brett. Waking a sleeping giant in reference to the Braves, but you could say that in reference to the Phillies and their lineup as well. Their lineup it's been underwhelming, right? Like, that's the word I would use for the Phillies lineup so far in this series, is that it's been just very underwhelming. You had no action from the bottom of the lineup, and up top, you've had guys in huge spots, and you've had your stars in huge spots, and they haven't been able to capitalize. You could say the same thing for the Braves up until the end of that game in game 2, right? Austin Riley cranks one. But you could say Ronald Acuna's missed out on opportunities in this series. Ozuna, down the line, right? Different guys for the Braves have missed on these opportunities. So maybe it's just a matter of when are the stars going to show up, and who are they going to be in this series? And you have to hope that, after some of these comments made after that game 2 loss, you have to hope that it's Bryce Harper's time coming, man. That's what I'm really praying on tonight and throughout the rest of this series, is that these guys really turn it on.
Well, speaking of waking a sleeping giant, we'll get into to a certain something said about Bryce Harper the other night. That's pretty funny. But the last thing to go back to game 2 about, speaking of Bryce Harper, man, I just got to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
Do you blame Bryce at all for it to end that game that way? Are you upset with him at all?
Am I upset? No, I would be more upset with Bryce rather for some of the opportunities he had at the plate. Like, that's where I would be a little bit more frustrated with Bryce. I'm not looking back on this game and saying, if he wouldn't have, because at the end of the day, he's trying to make a play. He's trying to get to home base as fast as he can. And, let's say he doesn't make the base running error, whatever you want to call that situation. You get back, he's back at first, and you have 2 outs, right? Like, what are the chances really at that point? You still have an opportunity, so I get it. It's a lost opportunity nonetheless. But am I going to sit here and just like, rip Bryce Harper for that? Like,
Right.
no, because if that ball drops and Bryce Harper's at the home plate within 5 seconds after the ball drops, we're all sitting here cheering, screaming, and saying how great of a play it was. So I think we got to give and take a little bit there. But what I will say, when you see Trey Turner make 2 fielding errors and then you see Bryce Harper make the base running mistake
Your
at the
two
end,
$300+ million men are
yeah,
making mental mistakes to cost your
mental
team a game,
mistakes.
basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So
Um,
that when you look at it on the grand
yeah,
scheme of that game,
yeah.
it is a little annoying looking
It is.
back on it now.
It is, but
Talking
what I
about it.
will say, I think timing played a factor for me too as well. And what I mean by that is, you know how you laid out there, it's not like the Phillies were down 4-0 and they had to climb back and then they lost 5-4. It's the fact that you blew that lead and you blew that lead 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
So if they were losing 5-4 and Bryce made that mistake in the top of the 7th, I'd be pissed off.
Yeah.
You blow the game on the road in the bottom of the 8th, top of the 9th, 1 out. I'm just trying to shut this crowd down now. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Like, because to your point, I think Bryce knows that. And again,
already.
I get you have to make them earn every out. And Bryson Stott was coming up versus a righty, and maybe there's some magic in that bat. Maybe he gaps one for Bryce, and it's not even a home run or whatever the case may be. But you all know there's 26 of 27 outs. A runner's not in scoring position. The odds are probably less than 2% for the Phillies to tie or win that game in that
Very
spot.
grim.
So I don't hate it from that point.
I think this is part of it too, man. It's not like he was lacking effort in that moment. It was just a mental mistake in reality.
Yeah, and listen, sometimes you just have to tip your cap, man. And I know, like, that catch is ridiculous. That catch is ridiculous, and then not just that, like Austin Riley being the third backup on the relay. Like, that ball skipped by 2 Atlanta Braves on the way back in. Bryce was this close to getting back safe. Austin Riley just comes out of nowhere, scoops it, like literally like in one motion, scoops it, tosses it into his hand. There's a 100-mile-an-hour rip right to Matt Olson to end the game. It was an all-around great play. Yeah, the baseball, the baseball IQ, the baseball knowledge would tell you don't run past second. You wait to see that ball drop or not. But like I said, I'm not mad at it because it's the moment that it happened. Like, also, if the Phillies would have blown the lead in the 5th and they were down by 1 in the 9th, maybe I'd still even be mad. But again, when you just give up that momentum, he's looking to capture that and try to take the air out of them immediately.
And that's now that we're like really talking about this situation, how it feels like it played out to me. That was just Bryce Harper leaving it all on the table. Like, this was your shot right here. That ball is going deep into the outfield. This is your shot to steal game 2 as well and go back to Philly up 2-0. And if that ball drops, if he doesn't make that miraculous catch, throw back, like if all of that doesn't happen, we're sitting here screaming about a win and Bryce Harper bringing it home.
It's also very funny because that ball was a home run in over 50% of major league ballparks.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like you give and take with that situation because it just felt like Bryce in his mind, maybe you're just empty in the tank here. If you go into extra innings, even if you even go into extra innings with the Braves at home in this situation, how's that going to end? Right. So like, I don't know, maybe you're just empty in the tank and throwing your best shot out there at the end and hoping that something, as Darius says here, magical happens for you, but it obviously didn't happen that way.
But to wrap up game 2, when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, with Trey Turner, with Bryce Harper, your $330 million men, your superstars that won you game 1.
Yeah.
They just can't lose you games in the postseason.
Yeah.
And not that they were the only reason or even the main reasons that they did. But when you look back on it, and there's 27 outs for each team, you can't give your opponent outs, and you got to make them earn their outs, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Trey Turner gave them extra at-bats with his errors.
Yeah.
Trey Turner getted them a run with his error. Bryce Harper didn't make them earn that 27th out by pitching to Bryson Stott in hindsight, right? So that's game 2. They lose 5-4. They come back home. They got the split. Day off, I think, was huge for momentum to kind of calm things down, take that breath, look around tonight. That ballpark is going to be so juiced. I hate that it's a 5 p.m. start. I like it because obviously we're closer. You know, maybe it's 2 or 3 less hours away than it normally would be. But it's like, man, you know, I have no doubt it's going to be sold out and packed immediately. But
they're making us the early game, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't know about that.
5:07 for this series, like, just sounds kind of weird for me, man. But
I get it. They're trying to get as many eyes as they can on each game, but yeah, I don't know. This feels like this shouldn't be the matinee game today. This should be the primetime game.
So let's look at this one, right?
Yeah.
Aaron Nola gets the ball, just like he got the ball in game 3 against the Atlanta Braves last year, where he's spectacular. He was spectacular for his, you know, the start against Miami in the wild card round. Spectacular for his 2 last starts in the regular season before the postseason. And most likely, Brian Snitker hasn't announced it, but most likely Bryce Elder for the Braves is going to get the ball tonight. My question is this. There's so much focus, excuse me, on the pitching matchup tonight. And there's no doubt about it that the Phillies have the edge. They have the advantage with Knowles on the mound. My question is, with these 2 lineups that haven't really necessarily gotten going, right? The Braves scored 5 runs in less than 2 innings, right? In 2 1/3 innings. The Phillies in this Atlanta series haven't really gotten the long ball going. Whatever, left a lot of meat on the bone. Does it really matter what that pitching matchup looks like tonight? That's what I'm curious to see. Can Nola continue to hold down this Braves lineup tonight? Because that is crucial, man. The Phillies are going to score runs. The Phillies are going to score at home in front of that ballpark. It's beautiful weather. The ball's going to fly. Elder has no postseason experience. He has no idea what he's walking into tonight, just like Jesus Luzardo didn't know what he was walking into in the wild card round. My question is, does it matter? Because can Aaron Nola hold down the fort, so to speak, and keep that offense limited again?
Yeah, I think he can, man. I think as we've discussed with Aaron Nola, each and every time he comes out, right, you never know what you're going to get at this point. And that's just being completely transparent with Nola and his career. But we do know the upside, the high point, his ceiling, what it can reach. And his ceiling is shutting down the Braves, shutting down a lineup like the Braves. He does have that talent in his arm. He does have the capability. As always, it's always been a mental thing with Aaron Nola. Can he get over that mental hump tonight? Does Topper realize when that mental hump is coming and pull him soon enough before we hit that breaking point? That'll also be a key tonight as well. But when we're looking at Aaron Nola coming into this game, we said it about his last game in the wild card, right, against the Marlins, the biggest game of his career. And maybe not from the standpoint of playing in the World Series or NLCS, but day to day, getting to the next game. Your next game is your biggest game. And when we're looking at his contract situation, that's going to be the case here on out. Every single game that Aaron Nola ends up playing in this postseason, the next one is going to be the biggest of his career because he wants that paycheck. And this is another moment where Aaron Nola can come up big and increase that price tag, right? You look at what he did last year, it's same exact spot, right? And almost the same exact date. It looks like it was on October 14th of 2023. Last time he played the Braves in the postseason last year in the NLDS. 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 6 Ks, and you had a 9-1 Phillies win in that game. That's all we're asking for here. It doesn't even have to look that nice, but he's shown that he can do that in this moment specifically. And all we're asking for is a repeat. We're asking for him to come out here and just do that again. Sounds a lot easier than what it is, I know. But we know that it is, that Aaron Nola has that inside of him. He has that capability inside of him. And what better way to do it, right? Come out tonight, show resilience, get through 6-7 innings in this game, and don't have that breaking point, right? And I know it's not a competition between your 2 aces. It's never like that, but you can kind of get a 1-up there, right? If you don't give up that big run or that big homer in this game, right? You can get a little bit of a one up there, and it's always a competition between everybody. That's just life. So I'm looking at this as a really huge spot for Aaron Nola. And with the matchup, right? I get your point because both of these lineups are just ridiculous. But Aaron Nola, his ceiling is a difference maker, right? Like when you look at him versus Bryce Elder, which one of these pitchers can make the difference in this game? It's Aaron Nola by a landslide. If he can get anywhere close to his ceiling, to his positive spot for this team, they should take control of this game. So, yeah, I do think the pitching matchup does matter. But it only matters if Aaron Nola lives up to his name and does what he's supposed to.
The key for Aaron Nola tonight is his off-speed stuff. It is his breaking stuff. And here's why. The game plan for Zach Wheeler, which was talked about a lot, was very obvious. What did Zach Wheeler try to do to the Atlanta Braves?
Yeah.
Fastballs up in the zone. 98, 97, 99 mile an hour fastballs up in the zone. Atlanta statistically, analytically has issues with those types of pitchers. The issue is the Atlanta Braves offense, who hit 300 plus home runs this season, feast on guys who throw 96 and under. They're not great against 96 and up. They're great against 96 and under. Well, what does Aaron Nola throw, Scotty? 94, maybe?
Yeah.
93 to 95, somewhere around that ballpark. Aaron Nola is not going to blow fastballs past this Atlanta Braves offense. What's the curve look like? Yeah. What's the cutter look like? What's all the stuff with movement and break and hooks look like tonight? Are they catching, the bottom corner? Are they looking like a strike and dipping out? Are they backdooring someone? Because if they're not, if they're staying over the plate or he can't command it for strikes and has to rely on that fastball, it's going to be a long night. The key for Aaron Nola tonight is his breaking stuff.
Yeah.
He looked great with it against the Marlins. He was great with it against Atlanta last year. He has to be phenomenal with it tonight in this matchup.
Yeah. No.
The other side of things, the offense, we giggled about it earlier, right? There's something to be said. You and I know, because we've had this talk with, former Eagles players in the past and former Sixers players. If you are a role player, if you are a seventh option to your team, it's probably best you know your role and shut your mouth. It's probably best you don't egg shit on or poke the bear, so to speak. We talked about Bryce Harper's base running blunder. Well, everyone else in the Braves locker room was hyping up Michael Harris. You should all be on cloud 9. That was a phenomenal win. It was a phenomenal ending to a playoff baseball game. Congrats. You needed the win. Michael Harris made a great play. Except for the fact that Orlando Arcia, who, by the way, has one hit in the postseason so far, who, by the way, is hitting under 200 in like the last 2 months of baseball, was mocking Bryce Harper in front of reporters. So it was on purpose. It wasn't, I thought I was behind closed doors. I was with my teammates, blah, blah. You said it over and over again in front of dozens of reporters. You absolute moron. Now, thank you. I want to say thank you first and foremost, but you absolute moron. Scotty, walk me through. What is he thinking? Because you had the Phillies down and out. You had me. You had the fan base down and out with that win. With that coming out, all that does is energize that ballpark. Do you know what they're going to do to Orlando Arcia when he's announced tonight? When he walks up to the batter's box each and every time tonight? Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
The thing about it, Dylan, the thing about this situation is that the fans didn't need motivation.
No.
And neither did Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
Bryce Harper is a perfectionist. Like, he was already looking back on that game and
Yeah.
thinking, man, I fucked up at the end of this game.
Yep.
Like, I need to go out and make up for that, right? In the next game, I need to have a moment. I need to put this team on my back. Then you have this guy, Orlando Arcia, after the game, putting his name in his mouth, right? Like, that's a violation. So now you've added another layer of motivation for Bryce Harper and for the city to absolutely rail Orlando Arcia tonight. But not only that, Bryce Harper, being the perfectionist that he is, being the guy that loves to play to the city and what they love, you have to know this man is going to come out and try to rip this team's head off their
bro.
off their
And it ain't
man.
like you got Spencer Strider on the mound tonight. It's not like you might have a glimmer of hope of shutting down Bryce Harper tonight.
But these are some goofy characters down there in Atlanta with the red carpet and stuff. I mean, that is weird.
You know what it is, man?
That is very weird.
Even with that momentum shifting win and that excitement, you know what it shows me still, Scotty?
Yeah.
Shows me it's still all up there.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. Like, what are they doing rolling out a red carpet for the NLDS in a tied series?
And these guys are dressing to the nines like they're going to the Met Gala.
Their wives and like just very weird, goofy behavior for a team that won a World Series 2 years ago. It's very odd that, like, shouldn't you know how to act? Shouldn't you like, you've been here before? Like, it's very weird, odd behavior. They're obviously clearly frustrated and you know, worried about coming here. Spencer Strider, when it, you know, with that strikeout call from Jose Alvarado on Monday night's game, zooms in on his face at the perfect moment when he like, you're such a nerd. Like,
such a little kid.
Is such a goddamn nerd that I cannot take it with that ridiculous mustache on his face. And I cannot wait. Like, I'm obviously already ready to go for tonight. He's getting the ball tomorrow in CBP.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be a moment in itself as well. And trust me, I know he's a great pitcher. He might win the Cy Young this year. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want fans in the building. What it shows me, man, and again, I know Orlando Arcia is a role player, and I'm about to like compare it, but like, when you have moments like that, moments of greatness and moments of big team wins where you should be focusing on yourselves and happy for yourselves, but in the back of your mind and your subconscious, you're thinking of the opponent, like you're talking about Bryce Harper in that moment rather than going with Michael Harris. It just it just shows me that, like, you're not championship caliber. Like, and he's a role player, like Jimmy Butler, right? Like, Jimmy Butler, we know postseason Jimmy's a monster, carried the Heat twice to the finals, whatever. But like, when they beat the Sixers and knocked the Sixers out, or just won a game against the Sixers, instead of being excited that you're advancing, what's Jimmy saying? Tobias Harris over me? Did Jimmy Butler win a championship that year? Nah, he didn't. It's this, man. Like, in a moment like that, when your team advances or when your team has almost a walk-off play for a win like that, you should be embracing yourselves, not focused and worried and speaking on your opponent.
Yeah,
and that's what I love about it.
I even think, you know, to a certain extent, it's like, okay, well, at least it's Jimmy Butler. Like, it's not, you know,
that's a start.
Udonis Haslem off the bench, like, talking shit on Tobias Harris. And, like, you know, it would be what I would compare this to, Orlando Arcia. This is like Brandon Marsh or like Christian Pache coming out and saying, you know, oh man, attaboy Acuna. You know what I mean? Like, attaboy, way to mess up in this big. Like, they just have no space to even say anything like that because their careers will never amount to anything close to this said player. And that is Bryce Harper for Orlando Arcia, man.
Yeah, man.
But like you said, thank you. Like, even more motivation, like the red carpet shit coming to Red October. Like, thank you. Even more motivation, right, to get this done in Philly and not have to go back to that forsaken place in Atlanta. So, once again, thank you. Big win by Atlanta. And I think that's what pushed me to this point where I'm at today, where I'm just ready to see him play some more baseball and move on to the next, man. Because this Phillies team, they don't play around with games like that. That's the thing. They party, they celebrate their wins when it's time to celebrate, but they don't play games like that. They don't disrespect other teams.
I just think
it's interesting.
I think the biggest thing for me moving forward into this game and kind of getting over that heartbreaking loss is that it's just been their track record. And that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it things better, feel better in the moment. But they lost every game. They won every game one last postseason and then lost every game two in the NLDS, NLCS, and World Series. And then bounced back by winning at home in game three of all three of those series. They blew a 4-0 lead against the Padres in the NLCS, won game three. They got shut out and almost no hit against the Braves in game two of the NLDS. Came back and slugged them for game three.
Yeah.
They lost at the World Series, game two. Came out, hit like 6 home runs in game three. I think this team will be okay. And with that said, how can they be okay tonight, Scotty? What's it going to take for them to get a win tonight? And I think it's 3 things that are very simple, and I'll throw them here to you as well. A, Aaron Nola has to pitch well. Aaron Nola, we talked about his breaking stuff, his command. Aaron Nola has to keep this Phillies team in the game, and it starts in the top of the first inning, right? Like, think about that momentum shift right there. The Braves are coming out with all that momentum. You know the ballpark's going to be juiced. Do not allow anything in the top of the first to suck any sort of life or energy out of Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah.
No solo home run, no 2-out RBI single, no walk, no nothing.
Yeah.
Clean things up from the start of the game. B, what do they have to do differently offensively, Scotty? Can't leave base runners.
Yeah.
And no mental mistakes. I think it's very...
11 men stranded on base in that last game, 2 out of 8 with runners in scoring position. It's not how you beat the Braves. You have to capitalize on every opportunity that comes, and you have to play perfect. Like you said, play perfect. Like, that's what we're looking for, especially in the top of this game, where you're trying to keep the crowd invested. No errors, nothing like that can happen in this game. Otherwise, the momentum once again swings in Atlanta's favor.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And it's just the way that you have to look at it. Again, whether it's glass half full, glass half empty, the glass half full version is that the Phillies made all those mistakes, left all that meat on the bone, and split, and then only lost by 1 with a miraculous comeback and a miraculous play in the top of the 9th inning, right? So with that said, if you don't make those mistakes, if you don't shoot yourself in the foot, so to speak, if you cash in a little bit more offensively, this is your game for the taking at Citizens Bank Park.
Yeah.
I really believe that. I really, but like at some point, man, Kyle Schwarber is going to put one in the upper tank.
Yeah.
At some point, you didn't need to poke Bryce Harper. At some point, Nick Castellanos, who's still been great, is going to rip one into over that left field wall. Trey Turner. At some point, that offense is going to come together, and all it takes is one night, one explosion for this series to shift all the way back in Phillies momentum. You have now made it a best of 3 series with the first 2 games being in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Starts tonight. 1 game, 1 inning, 1 pitch at a time. That has to be the mindset. Take a deep breath, exhale, relax. You're okay. And you're in front of your home crowd, man. And I think that's the biggest thing tonight. So, Scotty, do the Phillies take a 2-1 series lead tonight at Citizens Bank Park?
Yeah, they have to. They have to win this game. Even more so than game 4, I would say. Even if you had to go back to Atlanta for game 5 and finish it there, I think this game is a must win, because you lose this game, it's going to suck the life out of this team and out of the fans. We look at this series. What is one point where the fans can kind of help this team get ahead? It's playing at home and having the advantage of the best of 3 with the first 2 in Philly. You got to take advantage of that tonight. So yes, they have to win. And I do think they take care of business tonight at home. I think this crowd is going to be way too much for this team, especially with a guy like Bryce Elder on the mound. This isn't one of your aces that is coming up to the mound and ready to take on this lineup. And simply put, man, this lineup is ready to explode. It's time. They're due, right?
Yeah.
Throughout all of these games, even against the Marlins, they have not put together an explosion type of game,
Right.
an 8 to 10 run type of game, right?
Right.
An
They
8 to
scored
10 run
seven with
outing.
the Bryson Stott grand slam, but that can't, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's a
off
grand
one,
slam,
yeah.
right? That's not even everybody getting involved on that.
Right.
So I'm looking for everybody to get involved tonight. I'm going to set it at 7-3. Phillies win over the Braves tonight.
Nice,
But
nice and
honestly, man,
comfortable, huh?
I feel like they're due for more than 7 runs. I think they're due for more than that. We've seen some teams explode across the MLB the
Yeah.
last few days, and I think the Phillies are next up. There's arguments that can be made. Maybe it's the Braves that are next up, but I think it's the Phillies night at home tonight. And take control of this series. Take it back, right? Take the momentum back.
No, I think it's a great point because, like I said, with the Schwarber home run, the Castellanos, etc., the Phillies through 4 playoff games this year have 5 home runs. 2 of them are from JT Realmuto.
1 from Harper.
1 from Harper. 1 from Bryson Stott.
So 4.
4, yeah. Wait, no, JT is 2. JT because he hit 1 against Miami. Yeah,
Bryce and Stott.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so we need more.
No Schwarber, no Trey, no Bohm, no Castellanos.
In CBP
Harper's was a solo, like line drive, just like, you know what I mean? Not they all count the same, but what I'm saying is there's a feel to it. There's a momentum swing to it, and a Bryce Harper home run over the right field wall at Citizens Bank Park hits a little differently than that one did. I want to look at one thing with you before we wrap this up. Best bet for tonight. Obviously, we have been all for the first 4 games hitting Phillies money line. We're 3-1 on that best bet, obviously, with their record in the postseason. But I want to check here. They're minus 122 on the money line tonight, so they're slight favorites. Oh, both team totals are set at 4.5, and the overs are both plus 100 for the Phillies and the Braves. What is a better bet tonight? The Phillies to just win the game, or the Phillies to score 5+ runs against Bryce Elder?
I think for the money, the 5 runs, because I think they're scoring that tonight regardless at home. If they get held under 5 runs, then maybe they may lose this game. So I do think, they have to get over 5 runs, and for the plus money.
It'll be I'll have to see what I want to do, man. I'll certainly
Phillies minus 1.5 is interesting too, man. I do think if they win this game, they win it by multiple runs. I don't think it'll come down to 1. But no, the over 4.5 is interesting.
Guess we're gonna have to think about that one.
I don't know. I do think the Phillies take the dub overall. So if you want to be safe, if you're putting a lot of money down on it, maybe just go that route. That way you don't have to worry about how many runs they're scoring or anything like that.
There's 2 ways to look at it. Exactly. Like if you bet money line, they just have to win, 3-1, 2-2, whatever the case may be.
1-0.
But playing against the Braves, you don't have to worry about what your pitcher does. And if they're scoring a lot of runs, and if it's a 1-run game late in the game, it's like, no, if they do what they do offensively, that hits. I'll probably just stick with money line. It's been the cash cow so far. I'm rooting for them to win anyway. So that's probably what I'll end up doing. Because again, like we said, I know we think they're going to score runs if they want to win this game. Yeah. But we've been talking about how we don't want to win the game, but then be mad at losing money. Well, if they score 4 runs and win, you're at that torn section again.
Exactly.
Didn't win my bet.
7 innings, only gives up 3 hits, right? No, 1 run, but they win 4-1. Like, you don't want to sit there and be regretting that after you get a big W at home. So I would probably go with money line, although the juice is nice on the run total.
I'll be interested to keep an eye on it because I do kind of want to see. I don't think it'll change, but when it's at plus money like that, sometimes they'll drop it down just a tick. So if that line gets to 3.5, then I might take the total runs at 3, the team total at 3.5. But if that stays at 4.5, where they need the 5, it's just such a tricky line.
We're expecting an explosion, but like they haven't yet in reality, right? Like they've scored 7, but I don't know.
I agree.
3.5 feels a lot better.
I agree. They've actually only hit that over in one of the first 4 playoff games. My second game against Miami.
The odds are against it in reality, but I think they are due, though.
Yeah,
nonetheless.
no, I agree. Guys, with that being said, that is going to wrap up this Wednesday edition of the Faithful Fanatic Show. Phillies Braves Game 3 at the Bank, 5:07 p.m. If you guys want to be interactive on Friday morning show on any of our pregame lives for the Phillies, Sixers, and Eagles throughout the seasons, make sure you subscribe to the DSM-Philadelphia YouTube channel that we are streaming live on right now. Turn on notifications for whenever we post a video, for whenever we go live. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with us. For myself, for Scotty, have a great rest of your Wednesday, and go Phils.